everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get started on this card tutorial, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. In today's video, we are going to be making a card with this die set. It's from the Stamps of Life. It is the Bubblegum Machine Fold It card. And this die actually makes a card shaped like a bubblegum machine. Isn't that adorable? And it's actually 7 inches tall. So this is a 5x7 card. So it's going to be a little bit larger than the A2 size that we've been seeing. So this is a 5x7 in size, and you can use it for an actual card. So this is actually a card shaped like a bubblegum machine, or you can just use it on a scrapbook page, or you can use it on a card front. But today in my tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I made this card, and I want you to notice that I made it into a shaker card, and look what is unique. Those aren't just typical shaker bits in there, that is actual candy in there that I put in my shaker. So I really love how this turned out. It is so much fun. So this die set, it has your large shadow layer. This is what's going to make your card base, or if you're just using this on a scrapbook page, this is the shadow layer that you'll put behind your layering pieces, and that's what you're going to die cut then out of these pieces. So this die, when you die cut it, it actually makes several cuts. So there's several cuts to this gumball machine, and you can die cut it out of any color of cardstock, any type of pattern paper that you want. It's up to you. You can personalize this. So we are going to be doing that today. It also has, there's 5 gumballs that you can include, so you don't have to make it a shaker card. You can just die cut these gumballs, put them in there, and make it a flat card. And then it has this little piece, which this piece goes right here. It's for the little knob. And this set goes with this stamp set. It's Bubblegum For Me. I'm just going to turn this over just so that you can see the stamp set a little bit better. This set is an older set from the Stamps of Life. So some of you may already have this. And it is called Bubblegum For Me. It is the same exact bubblegum machine, only it's in a stamp. And it has all these cute little other stamps. There's a smaller gumball machine. And there's sentiments. You blow me away, have a ball, 5 cents. Have a bubblicious day. Blessed chew, feel better soon. Don't let anyone burst your bubble. So you can use these sentiments in conjunction with your bubblegum machine. So if you have this, pull it out and use it. If you don't have this and you want to get it, I will put the link below in addition to the link for this so that you can see this as well on the website. And really quick, I just wanted to show you the inside of this card before we get started on the tutorial. So as I said, there's real candy inside of here. Well, what if your recipient wants to be able to open that and eat that candy? Well, look at this, guys. So when you open it, I put a little circle die here with a little pull tab. Now, if they wanted to, they can tear this off. This is glued, so they can actually tear that off and get the candy out of there because there's a little hole behind there. So that's up to your recipient if they want to do that, but that's an option. So that's how I made this, or you can just put regular shaker bits in here if you didn't want to do the whole candy thing, and you don't have to do this. You can just have the flat back, but I'm going to show you how to make this fun card with the circle behind. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your large shadow die. You're going to die cut this on a piece of white cardstock, which I've done here, and it gives me this piece, okay? And then we're going to set that aside. So I've set the white piece aside. Next, you will take this die, and you're going to layer this stitched piece right inside of that gumball machine. And when you do this, you are going to take some washi tape. I'm just going to flip this over. And you're going to tape this so that it is centered inside the gumball machine. So you're going to put some tape here, and you're going to put some tape on that side. And then you're going to run this die through your die cut machine on a piece of red cardstock. This is the strawberry cardstock from the Stamps of Life. And when that comes out of the die cut machine, you get all of these pieces. So this die, it cuts all of these little pieces out. So that's what you see here. Then you're going to take this die again, making sure that it's still taped. and you're gonna die cut it on a piece of cloud cardstock. This is the light gray. So my theme is just the traditional style gumball machine. It's the red and gray, red and silver color gumball machine. So now we have the whole set of pieces of the gumball machine, but in a different color, okay? Then you're gonna take this die again, and you're only gonna die cut this portion. So you're just gonna take a piece of black cardstock, and you only need the bottom portion, and that's gonna give you, you want this piece for the bottom, and then you're also gonna use this piece here, okay? And on that same piece of paper, see if you can also fit this die as well. So if you die cut that little handle, you'll get the black handle for that, okay? So those are your die cuts. Now, I'm gonna tell you up front, keep your tape on here, because in order to do your shaker card, we're gonna have to do some more die cutting, and we wanna keep the shape that is taped together. So once you've die cut your cardstock pieces, set this die aside for right now. So next, I'm going to ink up the edges of just some of the gray cardstock, just to add some dimension. And if you look at my original, I have the gray pieces here, 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 and I don't know if I said here. So I'm gonna take some cloud ink. So I have my cloud ink from the Stamps of Life. It matches that cardstock. And I'm going to ink up the edges of just those gray pieces. Now, the gray pieces that I'm not gonna use, so again, use my card as a guide. I'm not gonna worry about inking those up. So I'll be taking this large piece, inking up around here. Now, another option, you can, if you liked this style gumball machine, again, the original style with the red and the gray, you can also use like a silver glitter paper and add some sparkle instead of using that, instead of using the cloud cardstock. That's up to you. Or you can make it really pretty and use some pretty pattern paper. That's also an option. So here I'm going to take this thin little piece, add some ink to these edges, and then just the very top. Now, the parts that I'm not going to use, I can just save with my die for another project. And I'm not going to put any ink on the strawberry. I don't think it needs it. I just really wanted to add some dimension here. Now, these pieces are going to go on our shadow layer. But before I put them on the shadow layer, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I am going to use my Kiss Cut pad to put some of these marks, these little lines, on my shadow layer so I can see where to place these pieces. Because right now, this shadow layer is just one piece of solid white cardstock. And if I start to come in here and try to place these, I might not get them quite right. So if I take my Kiss Cut pad, this Kiss Cut pad was designed by Stephanie Bernard at the Stamps of Life, and it can be used with your die cutting machine. And what it does is it will allow you to put almost like an engraved print on your cardstock of the die. It's almost like putting pieces to the puzzle together. So how you're going to do that is you're going to take one of your cutting plates, you're going to put your shadow layer right on top of that, and then you're going to put your die right on top of that, okay? So this die, remember, it still has these pieces, everything's still connected because we're going to need to use that a little bit later on, but you're just going to center the die right over top of this shadow layer. And then I'm just going to take some tape. This is just some washi tape. And I'm going to tape this down to my cutting plate. So again, just make sure it's centered. Tape it down so it doesn't move. And then this Kiss Cut pad is going to replace the top cutting plate for your die cut machine. So it's just going to be a little bit of a thinner sandwich. And you're going to run that through your die cut machine. And these cardstock pieces are actually sticking to the bottom of this, so let me take those off. All right, so that's gonna run through just like that. So I just ran that through. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my die. Now, keep these washi tape pieces in place because you're still gonna need that. Now, what that did is, and I don't know how well you can see this, but it actually put a little engraved lines where those pieces fit. It's almost like putting the pieces in a puzzle. It didn't actually cut because we'd use the Kiss Cut plate instead of the top cutting plate for our die cut machine. So again, I don't know how well you guys can see these lines, but I think you can see them a little bit, but they're there. So that is really useful for when we start putting this piece together. So now we're ready to go ahead and start putting our pieces on this shadow layer. So I am going to use my gumball machine that I've already done just as a guide. And I'm gonna start, I guess we'll just start at the top. So I'm gonna take the gray piece from the very top. Okay, add that there. Then we'll go to the red piece and we will continue to add our pieces, again, following the original as a guide. The only thing that you're not going to put on is this piece. So this piece, do not put on. We have to save that for when we do the shaker element. Now I'm not going to add that black piece yet because I need to stamp and emboss the 5 cents on there. So I'm going to hold off on that piece as well. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this piece because I definitely need to use this, but I'm going to set it aside. And this piece I'm going to set aside. All of these other pieces I'm not going to be using, so I can add these to my die when I package it away. So I'm going to get rid of these for now. So I'm going to go ahead and take this little black piece, and when you're stamping on it, just make sure it's the right size so that you're stamping the right direction, okay? So this part, this rounded part, is the top. So I'm going to go ahead and set that there, and I'm going to take my powder tool just to add some powder here so that the embossing powder does not stick where I don't want it. And then I'm going to take my Versamark ink and I'm gonna stamp up my 5 cents stamp. Then I'm gonna add some white embossing powder. And I'm just, because this is such a small piece of cardstock, I'm gonna hold that with my tweezers as I do my heat setting. And look at that. I love the white embossing powder on the black cardstock. It just makes it pop. So we'll go ahead and take that. Now we're ready to glue this down. Next, we're gonna make our shaker element. So what you need to do is you need to die cut 8 pieces of chipboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so I have 8 pieces of chipboard. So using this die with these pieces taped together, you're gonna die cut 8 pieces of chipboard. Now, what if you don't have chipboard? Okay, so you can use the back of a 6x6 paper pad. That's chipboard. So if you don't have that, you can just die cut cardstock. Now, I initially started to die cut cardstock, and on this particular card, I ended up die cutting 7 pieces of the strawberry cardstock and 5 pieces of chipboard. And I really wanted to do all cardstock, but I was like, this is gonna take forever to do this. And my whole purpose of it was because I wanted all of this to be red. So I don't know if you can tell, but some of it's chipboard at the bottom, and then the top 7 pieces is red from the strawberry cardstock. But I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead and just mix the cardstock with the chipboard, and I'll just ink up the edges in some strawberry ink. So you can still tell a little bit, but it's not really that obvious. But it's up to you what you want to do. And the reason I had to do so many pieces is because the candy that I'm using is so thick. So let me just show you. This is Spree. So if you've never heard of Spree, they're sweet tarts. It looks just like this. And this is actually a flat candy. I was gonna use Skittles, but the Skittles are round and they are much thicker than the Spree. I said, you know what, let me just use Spree because they're pretty flat. But nevertheless, they're still thick and you still need to have a wall tall enough so that when you put these in, you have plenty of room, okay? So the actual, let me just set this on here so you can kind of get a better idea. So when you have your layers on here and you stick your candy in there, you need to be able to have a piece that's flat with the acetate going over top of this. So that's why I have to have so many layers here. And I figured if I used chipboard, it's thicker than cardstock and I wouldn't have to die cut so many times, okay? So you really need to decide. Now, if you don't want to use candy and maybe you wanted to make this a shaker card, your shaker bits are probably gonna be much thinner than that piece of candy. So you might not need as many layers and you might get away with maybe 5 pieces of cardstock. You can also use, if you didn't want to use candy, or if you didn't have any shaker bits, you can die cut these little circles, several different colors, and use those as shaker bits and put them in here. Or you can just make it a flat card. That's up to you. So if you wanted just to make this a flat card, look at this. Just put this on there, just like that, and then add your gumballs inside and you're done. You just attach that to a card base and you're done, okay? But you guys know me, I love my shaker cards, so that's what I'm doing. I'm converting this to a shaker, and it's just different. I mean, I have never put candy inside a shaker before, so it's just a little bit different, and boy, do those sure look like gumballs. I think they're so cute. I've got all of my chipboard cut, and then this piece would be my top layering piece. This is the piece that would go over top of the acetate so that the red displays on top rather than this chipboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing these together. I'm gonna set this die aside because I'm not gonna need that right now. And we'll just set that aside, that piece we'll just put aside. And I'm gonna go ahead and glue these together. So I'm gonna use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to add glue to the top of each one of these pieces. Actually, will be to the top of this one, and then I'm going to add a piece right on top of that. And then just use your fingers to make sure that it's all lined up, press down. You want to make sure you have a good fit, okay? Then you're going to go to the next one, add your glue, and add your chipboard. Now, if you had cardstock, you would add your cardstock pieces. All right, so I'm gonna just finish this up. All right, so there is my chipboard. Next, I'm going to use my strawberry ink, and I'm going to just ink up the edges. So just use your strawberry ink and then just ink up the outside edges. Now, I am not gonna be doing the inside edges. The inside edges, you're not even gonna be able to see with all of that Spree in there. So I'm just gonna try and get as much ink on here as I can so that you can't see all of that brown when you're looking at it from an angle. And also, you wouldn't really wanna do the inside because if you're adding candy and let's say your recipient wants to get that candy out of there, you don't want those Spree touching all of this ink. Now, I am gonna say, if I had white chipboard, I really wouldn't care if the white showed. I just don't like all of this brown. So if you have white chipboard, the white would be fine because you have that white shadow layer. All right, so now I have all of it inked up, so it has the red around it. Next, I'm going to take my strawberry top layer and I cut down a piece of acetate. So you will need a piece of acetate. If you don't have actual acetate, you can just use any of your packaging from your stamps, your dies. But you're just gonna flip this over and add some glue. And once you've added the glue, just press it onto the acetate. And I always like to let this dry for a little while before I start handling it. So I'm just gonna set an acrylic block right over top of that, just so that that presses down, it has a little bit more pressure, and it dries quickly. So while this is drying, we're gonna start making our card base. So you're gonna take a piece of the powdered sugar cardstock, and let me go ahead and set this aside just so that's not in the way. Fold it in half. Okay, so use your bone folder, fold it in half, and you're going to take your shadow die and you're gonna die cut this out of your shadow die to make your card base. Now, you're not gonna be able to open it from the top because this is a longer die, so I don't have enough paper here. So if you are using a standard size cardstock, you'll have to have it open from the side. So I'm just gonna add some washi tape here. Notice that the die is extending a little bit to the left of the cardstock. So I'm just gonna add some tape on here and run that through my die cut machine. So when that comes out of the die cut machine, here is your card base. And we're gonna go ahead and attach this now to our card base. So next we need to create the middle portion of this card. So basically what this is there is a circle that is cut out on the inside here, and that leads to a hole in the back of this card base. So I've taken a small size circle and I actually die cut in the center here. And then I've taken a stitched circle and die cut another die, so it gives me a stitched die of a circle, and I just put that over top of that to close that circle. So what happens is, and I also added a little tab, which I'll show you how to do that as well. So what happens is that if the person wants to get that candy out, they can just pull this off and that will come out of the little hole that's right underneath here. So in order to do this, I've got 2 circle dies. This small circle die is about 1.5 inches, and then this stitched circle is about 1 and 1 3/4 maybe. And I've already die cut that out of the powdered sugar cardstock. That's gonna go on the inside. And then this circle is going to be cut right here in the center of my card. And when I die cut this, first of all, I'm going to just center it, add some washi tape, make sure that stays down, and it's gonna cut into this top layer as well as the card base. So I'm actually gonna have a hole here. Okay. Now, if you wanted just to enclose your shaker pieces, you don't have to do this step. So if you didn't want to have the option of taking the candy out on the back side, you don't have to do this step, okay? Just skip it all together. But for right now, when you die cut this, you need to make sure that your card base is open and laying flat on your cutting plate. Otherwise, if you have it like this, what's gonna happen is it's gonna put a hole through the back side as well. And you don't want a hole through this side, so lay it flat open. Now, in order to do this step, because this is such a large die, you will need a larger die cut machine. This is not gonna fit through this width through a standard size machine. So you will need a larger machine to do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this through the die cut machine, again, laying flat open like this. So when that comes out of my machine, I'm just gonna carefully remove this washi tape. All right, so now I have my hole, and I have my hole on the back side. So now what I'm gonna do here is this piece is just gonna go right over top of that to cover it. But before I do that, let me set this aside because I wanna stamp on this. So I have the stamp, have a ball. So I'm gonna ink up my stamp with some black ink and just stamp that right on. And then I have these little tab dies. These are from the Stamps of Life. They're just little different size tabs. And I have this particular one, which I'm going to use. And I'm gonna die cut that out of some red cardstock. And there's these little drop-ins that you can have. There's some hearts, there's some flowers. This is just one big heart, which I'm just gonna place that right there. And I'm going to add some washi tape to this, just to make sure this stays. and make sure that heart is centered and run that through my die cut machine. So there's my tab, and then I just took that heart die and die cut a piece of the yellow cardstock. That'll be inserted right there in the middle. So now I can just close this and add this to this little circle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add glue all over the inside here. And I'm just going to lay this just a little bit on there. I don't want to cover it too much on the back because you have to keep in mind that you don't want it to show through that other hole. All right, so I'm just going to add some glue here to close that in. And then this little heart is going to be added right in there. So it's just adhered slightly down at the tip of that circle. And now this is going to be added to cover up that circle that is here. So you just have to make sure that when you add it, that you don't see any of the red. So don't add it too far low because then you'll see some of that red showing in that background. So here, you know, you're just going to put some glue on here, just on the outer edge. I'm not gonna put any glue on the flap. And then if you wanted to use a glue that's not so strong, you can use a glue such as the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue. I'm gonna use my art glitter glue. This is a very strong glue, but I'm not worried about this because this is a design team project and I know nobody's gonna open this. But if you were creating this card, let's say for your child or for your grandchild or whomever, you might wanna use a glue that's not so strong so that they don't have a hard time pulling this back to get the candies out of here, okay? But when you add the glue, you're just gonna add just a little bit around the outside edge and then just at the top of that flap. And that's about it. You might, because it's so wide, you might want to come in just a little bit more. It's really up to you. And then just add that so that it is centered on there, and then just wait for that to dry. Now, if any glue happens to seep out on this side, you need to clean it up and then just let it sit before you add your candy, because if you add your candy while there's glue on the outside, it might cause your candy, the coloring on the candy, to stain your cardstock. So you definitely want to make sure that there's no glue on there before you add that candy, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, I might as well just finish decorating the inside and then we'll come back, we'll add the candy, we'll add our shaker top, and then we'll be done. So we're gonna take those dies, these little gumdrop dies, and we're going to die cut different color cardstock. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some, I've already die cut mine, obviously, so I'm just gonna add them where I want them and then glue them down. So I had a few here, and then I did put some down here towards the bottom. So it's gonna look something similar to that, and then I'm gonna glue those down, and then we'll come back and do the front. Okay, so my inside is finished. So now we'll finish working on this outside. So the next thing we're gonna do to the outside is we are ready to lay this piece down. So we're just gonna take our glue and add glue to the back of the chipboard. And then just press that down really well. Now, if you put too much glue on that and it seeps out, you want to make sure you wipe that up and let any glue dry before you add your pieces of candy. So next, we're going to take our acetate piece. So we'll just hold that down like that. And we are going to trim off any excess acetate around the red cardstock. So just use your scissors and come around and trim. So that was plenty of time. This glue should definitely be dry. And now you can just work on the shaker part. So I'm just gonna set my acetate piece aside. All right, so now you just wanna make sure that there is no paper particles inside of here. Okay, so just make sure that's clean. And then you're ready to add your candy. So I'm gonna take my spree. Okay, and add those in. Okay, and I don't know if that last one's gonna fit. We might just have to take that out. Oh, look, that, it fits. Okay, now, if you're worried about touching the candy, just put gloves on, okay? So put some gloves on, and then you can maneuver your candy how you want it. I don't like all the purple and all the orange clusters around, so I'm actually gonna use my hands because I'm not worried about anybody going in here and actually eating this, because as I said, this is a design team project, so I don't think that Stephanie is going to come in here and eat this candy. So I'm just gonna just position these where I want them. Maybe add another red. Now, if it's for your child, obviously it doesn't matter if you touch this with your hands, right? But if you're worried, just put gloves on. So, and I want you to notice that it does cover up that circle there. So as long as you fill it up completely, it's gonna cover up that circle, all right? So you don't have to worry about that. And the chipboard pieces that you can see on the wall of the inside, you really can't see that with all of the candy in here. Now, if you're just adding just some shaker bits that are much smaller, you might not want to fill the whole thing. And what another thing is that you can do is before you add this chipboard, stamp a sentiment in there. And if you stamp a sentiment in there, don't fill the whole thing so you can actually see the sentiment coming through the shaker, all right? But I went ahead and filled the whole thing. That's what I wanted to do. That was the whole look I was going for. So then just take your acetate piece, just make sure there are no paper particles on it, and you're going to glue this directly on top. So I'm gonna take my glue. I think I'll just, well, you can add glue here as long as you're sure that you're not gonna get it on top of your candy pieces. So just don't mistakenly get it on your candy. Or if you don't think that you have a steady enough hand to do that, just add glue around only the red part of your acetate, okay? And then we're going to add that directly to the top. And I'm gonna take an acrylic block because I wanna make sure that I get a snug, firm hold on here. So I'm just gonna put that on there. I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes and let that dry. So isn't that adorable? Look at that. It's a little shaker with candy inside. I think that turned out super cute. And then when you open it up, it says have a ball, and there's a little tab. So if somebody actually wanted to just tear that cardstock off, they can actually get the candy out from underneath there. And I think that turned out super cute. So leave me a comment, let me know what you thought of this. And if you like this video, give me a like, and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.